Hello, welcome to Oxford Heirlooms. In this video, we're going to begin to hem the sleeves of the little jacket. Now, we're not going to hem it all at once. We're going to do it in parts. But before we get to that, I've done a little bit of preliminary work, so let me tell you what I have done. The first thing that I did was I went ahead and pinned the bottom hem up by 1.5 inches along the bottom. And then you see these white threads on the front of the garment. Well, my buttonhole locations with the chalk were kind of wearing off. So I threaded a little piece of white thread where each of the buttonholes is supposed to begin. So when I start to sew that buttonhole, all I have to do is drop my needle and then pull this little white thread out and make my buttonhole. Same with the button locations. I've gone ahead and sewn just a single thread into the front of the garment. Now, I've finished one sleeve already. You'll notice I have not hemmed the lining yet. It's still in here loose. But the hem itself is sewn on with some herringbone stitches, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. And then before we sew the lining in, we're going to go ahead and sew 2 buttons on the vent of the jacket sleeve. Now, on the other sleeve, what I have done is, like I did for the other buttonholes, I went ahead and very carefully measured from one sleeve to the other, and I have put in a thread where each of the 2 buttons need to go. And then just to keep things nice and neat, I basted with some white thread my vent closed so that when I sew my buttons in, my vent will be nice and straight. Okay, so what I'm going to do from the inside, right now I'm going to go ahead and pull the lining out of the sleeves, and I'll go ahead and pull the arms of the lining to the inside because I'm going to need that in the next video. And I'll go ahead and pull this other lining that's in the other sleeve. Just go ahead and get it out. Because we're going to do the sleeves and then we'll do the hem. And the last thing we'll do is we'll sew the buttonholes on the front of the jacket and sew the buttons on the front of the jacket. Okay, so in order to get this hem nice and neatly into place, I need to temporarily turn the jacket sleeve, the velvet part, inside out, because I need to work on the hem from the inside of the jacket. So let me get that and pull it to the inside. Pull carefully because I've got, I still have a pin in there holding the hem into place. Okay, now what I had wanted to do, the reason I basted that, is that we want to force the vents to be the same length as each other. Okay, so now previously, I had gone ahead and pressed my hem into place. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it into place now with a few little pins. Don't worry about this, that it's not even, because it's going to end up being inside of the lining anyway. Just put a few pins in just to hold the hem into place. Okay, now with my herringbone stitches, where's my needle? Here we go. Okay. All right, now I'm going to start my herringbone stitches right here, work my way to the end of the jacket, and then come back up. Now, you know, I need to have a straight line because I don't want this white interfacing to show from the outside of the jacket. So let me move this pen over just a little bit. Okay, so I've got my vent the same size. I'm going to pull this end up, and with my scissors, I'm going to trim just to make sure that it's nice and straight. Nice and neat without any interfacing sticking out. Okay. Get my needle again. Okay, now starting right about here, I'm going to start to do herringbone stitches, just however you like to do herringbone stitches. But we're going to just catch the interfacing. We're not going to go through the velvet. We're just going to go through the interfacing. Where have I caught my thread on the scissors? Hold on just a second. I got to get this off without cutting my thread. There we go. Okay, when you do a herringbone stitch, you're crossing over itself each time. Okay, just make your stitches above and below about 1/4 of an inch away from each other. But just simply tack this vent into place. Once I get down to the end, I'm going to come back up to the hemline and begin to hem the sleeve. These herringbone stitches. I'm not that good at doing them, but I do know how to do them. So I've got my thread. Can you see this? I've got my thread pulled over here to the left. I've kind of got it up and to the left. And I'm going to take a stitch right here. Let me take that pin out. I think I don't need it anymore. And I catch my thread in a cross style motion, and then come back up here and do another stitch with a thread over there to the left. And just keep doing these little cross stitches until we get down to the end. And then we'll work our way back up to the hemline and start hemming the sleeve itself. Okay, now I'm down here at the end. So I'm going to do a couple of little stitches just to kind of hold it into place. Then start working our way back up with the herringbone stitches. And we may run out of thread and have to rethread the needle, but that's okay. This herringbone stitch takes quite a bit of thread to do. Okay, when we get up to the hem, we're not going to go through the interfacing and the velvet. We're just going to go through the baby interfacing itself. Okay, now before I do the hem, I want to tack this vent down also. So let me keep going to the top of the vent. I'm probably definitely going to run out of thread. Let me get my thread, bring it over this way. Do another herringbone stitch. Come up over on this side. Just catch the baby interfacing and do another herringbone stitch. Come in here and catch. Do a little herringbone. See how that crosses on itself right there? You can see it when it's on the interfacing nicely. See how that crosses? Okay, so I'm going to do just a couple more stitches to get up here to the top, and then I'll work my way back down to the hem. This holds that vent nice and flat on the inside of the jacket. And then tack this corner down with a cross stitch. Do one more right there. Okay. All right, now I'm going to herringbone my way back up to, I think what I might do is I might just herringbone up to here and go ahead and start on my hem. So once again, just herringbone. Trying to stay on camera to do this. Okay, so I'm going to start going this way now. So I'm going to do a little herringbone right here on the end. And just begin to catch the hem and herringbone just along this seam. And once again, keep your stitches above and below. Take that pin out, it's kind of in my way. I keep catching it. But just keep your stitches about 1/4 of an inch apart. And then when you go up here to the interfacing, only catch the interfacing and don't catch the velvet. But obviously down here on the hem, we're going to catch the velvet. Okay, this is going to take me a minute to get all the way around the hem, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got that hemmed with the herringbone stitch. Now what I'm going to do is I need to sew the buttons onto the sleeve next. So I'm going to turn the sleeve back to the outside. Okay, now the sleeve is nicely hemmed. We don't have any stitch markers or threads on the outside. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the upper button and sew it on first because we can smooth it down as we sew. Now I've got 2 strands of thread in my needle for a total of 4 strands of thread. So I'm going to come inside the sleeve. Let me see if I can get up here. And go in right where that white thread is. Let's see if I could do this. There we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to sew the first of the 2 buttons. Let me go ahead and take that thread out so that I don't accidentally sew it into place. Okay, I've got 2 buttons. They're 5/8 inch buttons. And I'm going to sew them on. First, I'm going to sew them on perpendicular to the hem. And then I will make a little X. So the first 2 stitches are going to be perpendicular to the hem or parallel to the vent opening. Make sure I got that straight. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go through 2 times. Okay, now that button is about 1/8 of an inch away from the vent. I planned that way. Excuse me, I didn't mean to bump the camera. Okay, so that's 2 stitches with 4 threads in the first 2 holes. Then I'll do 2 stitches with 4 threads in the next 2 holes. Now notice my stitches are parallel to the vent and perpendicular to the hem of the garment. Okay, so let me get in here where I can see where the hole is. There we go. Okay, that's 1 stitch. I'm going to do a 2nd stitch and then I'll do my X to hold it into place. Yeah, there we go. All right, come back up in that corner, come down diagonally. Okay, so I've got 2 that are straight up and down. Now I'm doing 1 diagonally. Then I'll go back up into the one above it, the hole above it, pardon me, and come down diagonally the other direction. Okay, so I've got 2 threads, going up and down, 1 going this way and 1 going this way. And then I've got 1 more button to sew on, but since this video is getting kind of long, I think what I'll do is I'll sew that 2nd button on off camera, so I'll be right back. Okay, I've got both buttons sewn on. Okay, now let's see, just check and make sure my threads, sometimes they want to come out. Okay, so my threads are okay still. Okay, so I do need to clip these white threads and pull them out. So let me clip the little knots. I'll just clip it here in the middle. And then I'll use my seam ripper and pull those basting stitches out. There. Okay, let me take this other one out. And then let me get the little stitch down here at the bottom. And pull the knot out. There. Okay, so that little sleeve looks really nice, doesn't it? Okay, so in the next video, we will hem the lining of the jacket, the sleeve lining of the jacket, and then in the next video, we'll start working on the bottom hem of the jacket. But in this video, we were preliminarily hemming the sleeve of the jacket and sewing the little buttons on because we want the buttons sewn on before the lining is put in place. But thank you.